Afternoon and welcome to another rainy driver's ed class. Hopefully your day's going well. We'll wait a few minutes for people to sign in. So remember to log in and put your name in the comments and then send me a text saying that you are here and ready to take notes. Matson is here. One thing that I'm going to try to do for next week is change my internet modem because I'm getting a warning every single time that I log in that they have to lower the quality. So I'm not getting good download speeds. So this will probably be affecting um, what you see on your end. Mark, Josie, Joey, Brooke, Elizabeth, and Natalie. Most of you that have signed on have sent in your reading assignment from the homework from yesterday, so I appreciate that. Those that are just logging in right now, make sure that you do that. At the end of today's session, I will send you a link to do a overview. It's kind of like a quiz of everything that we've done this week rather than handing out worksheets like I've done before. I thought this might be a little bit better because it's easier for me to read and it self-corrects, so I don't have to worry about that. So we'll wait for about another minute to see if people are coming on. Today's session will be on insurance, so make sure that you have paper and pen. This is going to be a heavy note-taking class, so more than anything else that we have left, this is the one that probably has the most notes. Now, Luke is signing in, and Owen. Rachel. So let's see, we've got about 14, so that looks pretty good. So I think we can get going. So let's take a look at insurance and what to do in case you have a crash. Now, this is something that nobody wants to have happen, but in everybody's life, there will come a time when you will either be hit or you will hit somebody. I'm having a hard time with the mic today. Let's see if this helps at all. Okay, I'm turning it up a little bit. Okay, what I'd like you to write down, and remember, only write down the information that I say. That's important, okay? So, defensive driving, I want you to write down. Part of what you want to do with every time that you get behind the wheel of a car is to always look out for the illegal acts or the driving behaviors, the bad driving behaviors of other drivers. So, there's really two parts to this definition of defensive drivers. One is your uh, using your vision and actively looking for what is happening up ahead. And the second part is your willingness. Now, I know that I said that I wanted to talk about road rage today, but I don't think we're going to have enough time. So we're going to have to do that on Monday and cram it into everything else that we have to do. So the second part of defensive driving that I want you to write down is your willingness to adjust what you do. If you're not willing to adjust your driving, that is really the impetus of road rage. A lot of crashes happen is that you actually caused part of the crash. There is a percentage, and if you ever go to court, what they will do is they will assume risk. So think of a circle, think of a pie. So if you are 20% to blame, the other person's 80%. So a lot of times when you think, if I ever go to court, the other person's going to get the book thrown at them, that's not usually the case. A lot of times when you go to court, they're looking at how much were you an active participant in what happened. So you're going to be assigned a percentage. The other person's going to be assigned a percentage. Now, other parts of defensive driving is stay alert, keep your eyes moving, look for trouble spots. So we're looking at intersections, traffic lights, any place where we could have contact with another vehicle or pedestrian. So anything that's moving, bikes, pedestrians, rollerbladers, skateboards, all those will come into play with looking for trouble spots. Always keep a proper distance. You need to know, stay back about 4 seconds, and always expect the other driver to do the wrong thing. So let's talk about being involved in a crash. The first thing is that once you get into the vehicle, we know because you are under the age of 18, you're going to have your seatbelt on. But once you're older than 18, carry on that habit of being protected. Make sure that when you purchase a vehicle, you have a car that has a good crash rating, that you have a car that's equipped with safety measures like airbags and lane departure, blind spot monitoring. All those things will make you a better driver. So anything that you can do to help you, you want to basically be involved in that, especially when it comes to purchasing a vehicle. But every once in a while, for whatever reason, someone is going to possibly hit you. So what should you do? Being hit from behind is very common. So in your notes, I want you to write down being hit from the rear is one of the most common types of crashes. It's because at stop signs and traffic lights, people are distracted by being on their phone or not paying attention, and they do not brake at the right amount or at the right time. This is why I'm trying to train you to brake early and to always see the tires of the cars in front of you. If you can see the tires of the car in front of you, you have some distance just in case you were to be hit from behind, that you're not going to get pushed into that area. Brace yourself. If you look in your rearview mirror while you're waiting at a stop sign or a traffic light, you know that you're going to have that sudden jerk of being hit from behind. So your body's going to go forward and then it's going to go back. So brace yourself with the steering wheel in your arms and make sure that your headrest is adjusted properly, and know that your head won't go over the top of the headrest, which we call ramping. Being hit from the side, or what we call T-bone, write this down in your notes. This is very common driving through a downtown area like downtown Durham, Dover. This can also happen in parking lots where you're not paying attention and people backing out of a parking spot. They're not paying attention and they back into the side of you. They T-bone you. So brace yourself, especially if you're going at a high rate of speed, above probably 20 miles per hour, because if you're getting hit on the left side, your body is going to be moving to the right. When you get hit from the right side, your body is going up against the left side of the vehicle. The worst would be being hit from the left, because that is where you're feeling the impact. So hopefully you've got side impact airbags, but the car is coming right where your left shoulder is, and it's moving you over to the passenger side. So if you're in a truck or a car that has bench seats and you're not in your seatbelt, you are going to get pushed across the seat over on the right-hand side. If you get hit from the right side, in your notes, write this: you're going to get pushed into oncoming traffic. Now, as long as your car is still drivable, depending on where they hit you in the front, on the right side of your car, if they puncture a tire in the front right or rear, there's a possibility you're not going to be able to move your car very well. But you've got to know that if you're getting pushed over the center line, if it's heavy traffic, you're going to get hit again. And remember, airbags only come out once. So depending on where they hit you on the side, you're not going to be protected again by another crash, another car. So you want to make sure that you're thinking about, where do I want to get hit? Sometimes you can brake or accelerate to kind of choose where the impact is going to take place. And sometimes you'll be able to accelerate to change where the point of contact is going to be. The worst thing that you can do, and write this down in your notes, is to do nothing at all. Okay? Every situation can be made better. Never think, and this has nothing to do with being hit by another car, but no lie, I actually had a student that I was pointing out we had roadkill in the road. It was a dead squirrel. And I was pointing out the dead squirrel to the student and saying you should go around it or straddle it. And when they saw that I was pointing out a squirrel, they took their hands off the steering wheel and closed their eyes. Okay? And every situation that you think is an emergency, okay, you do not want to take your hands off the wheel. You do not want to close your eyes. You want to be an active participant in making things better. You do not want to make things worse. This is why this is so important. Being hit from the front is by far the worst. So write this down in your notes. What you want to do is to hit your brakes as hard and as fast as you possibly can. Because what you're trying to do at this point is to slow down your speed as quickly as you possibly can. And if the other driver is doing the same, you're getting to a point of contact with that other car where hopefully you'll be able to survive the crash. Let's say that you're on a highway going 60 miles per hour. The car coming towards you is going 60 miles per hour. They're on their phone. They're not looking at where you're coming from. They cross over the center line. Two cars hitting at 60 miles per hour. That's total impact of 120 miles per hour. If you're hitting your brakes and getting down below 30 and they're doing the same thing, you're basically going to have less than 60 miles per hour total contact. Better chance of surviving a crash at 60 than at 120. So everything possible to lower that speed as quickly as you can will help you survive this type of a crash. Now, as you see in the notes, hopefully you've got your seatbelt, your shoulder strap, you've got, airbags and everything else. So that is also going into helping you survive this crash. And we saw by the numbers yesterday with alcohol fatalities is that we're seeing those numbers going down, which is really helping quite a bit. Okay, let's talk about what's going to happen now. You've had a crash, and I'm actually going to get out of this. Let's see if I can unlock so you don't see me anymore. There I go. Bye. Okay, so I want to kind of go through step by step here. The first thing I want you to write down in your notes is to stop. And the reason why I want to just take a moment here and talk about this is that a lot of times when people hit someone else, they'll drive away. What you've just done is a hit and run. And now you've made things a lot worse. Now you have two offenses that you've broken. You probably crossed over a center line, did something illegal with your driving, and now you're leaving the scene. So make sure you take responsibility of what you've just done. The other reason why a lot of times people will not stop is that their license is under suspension or revocation. They don't want to get in further trouble, so they're just going to get away. And think about, and a lot of times you can tell by people's personalities. How many of you would be in a situation where, let's just say you're at Walmart and you're walking down an aisle with a friend and you're just clowning around and they push you and you hit the end display and everything on the end display kind of topples down. Do you look around to see if anybody saw you and run away? Or do you take a moment and be responsible and pick things up? Or if you broke something, do you go to the store manager or up to the customer service desk and say, hey, I just accidentally hit the end of the end aisle and I just broke something. I'm really sorry. What can I do? Okay, you have to be responsible when you're driving. Nobody wants an angry person to come out after them. But believe me, they're going to be a lot more angry if you're driving away. Now, this is where I kind of disagree with some of the notes that the state has given me to give to you. It says, if you can, move your vehicle off the road so that you do not block traffic. Now, I want you to write that down, but I want you to also write down it's because they do not want you to get hit again. Remember, when you're just over a hill or around a corner, there's a good chance that people don't see you. So if you did hit somebody or someone hit you, there's a chance you're going to get hit again. So it's an unsafe situation. So this is why they want you to move your vehicle. But this is what I want you to do. And I want you to write this down because we're going to see a video about this a little bit later. I want you to get out and take your cell phone out. I'm going to go back so you can see me. I'm going to put my picture back in. I want you to get out and take out your phone, and I want you to walk around the vehicle and take 4 pictures around the vehicle. So all 4 angles around the vehicle of the crash. You have a picture of where your car was hit, where they contacted your vehicle. You're going to be able to use that information when you fill out your crash report. Okay? Most insurance companies now do provide an app, and we're going to see that in a little bit later today, where you take that information, those pictures that you've taken, along with your insurance app, and you do your crash report right on your phone. Back about 15, 20 years ago, we didn't have those apps, and everything had to be handwritten. And part of what you're going to do for your homework is finding out information that you're going to have to put into that app. So I'm going to get out of this again, so you don't see me reading the PowerPoint here. All I want you to do, and I probably should have changed this, is write down 911. When you're involved in a crash and you've got to call somebody for help, that is an emergency, and you're not going to call individually the police department and then the ambulance or the fire department. A 911 call will be made, and once that call is made, they're going to determine at the dispatch who else has to come out to help you at the scene. So they may deploy the fire department and an ambulance. They may send the police. Well, definitely they're going to send the police because you got to get the information, but they may not do the fire department. It could be just the police or the police in an ambulance because medically you may have to be taken to the hospital. But unless there's a chance of a fire, maybe the fire department wouldn't come along. Get the names and addresses of all the people involved in the crash, including injured people. Now, your insurance company is going to want this information. Now, this is what I want you to write down in your notes, is that the police will help you with gathering this information. And I'm going to use the example. The driver's ed car has only been hit twice, and it wasn't the driver's ed student's fault. It was someone that hit us. And each time that we had a police officer come and help investigate and process the information, that was their job, was to help facilitate the exchange of information. And what I want you to write down in your notes, the best way to do this is to get out your license, give it to the other person, and the other person should give you their license, and take a picture of that license. You're going to be so shooken up, or maybe they even will take you to the hospital, and you may not be able to get that information. But a passenger should be able to help gather that information that you're going to be able to use on your filling out your insurance forms a little bit later. It's also good to know how many people are at the hospital, so you can always follow up. I hit another car, there were 3 people, and you want to check on and make sure that they're okay. That's just the responsible thing to do. What to record of the other driver. Now, like I said, let's just say that the damage to the vehicle isn't where you're going to call the police. One of the things, I think this is from the manual, it used to be in the old one, is that if it's over $1,000, you're legally responsible to make a report. Under $1,000, you don't necessarily have to. So a lot of times when the damage isn't a whole lot of money and isn't that bad, a lot of times people will try to settle everything right by the side of the road or in a parking lot. They don't want to get the police or the insurance company involved. So getting that license is really important. Now, this is what I want you to write down. If you ask for someone else's license and they don't give it to you, call the police. The reason why someone doesn't want to give you their license, probably the main reason, is they don't have it with them. Or maybe it's under suspension or revocation. I can't tell you how many times I've had previous students that have told me that they've been involved in minor crashes in a parking lot, and the people have told them, give me your name, your phone number, I'll give you my name, my phone number, and we'll just work this out. Let's not get the insurance companies involved. I can still remember one girl, I think she was driving at in Exeter, and she was at Wendy's, and a car backed out into her. It was an older gentleman, and he was so apologetic, saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry, it's my fault. You know, don't worry, I'll take care of this." Well, later that evening, he called her phone number, and back then it wasn't cell numbers, it was a home number, and he talked to this girl's dad and was blaming the girl for the crash. And she really wasn't the one at fault. But he changed the story. So a lot of times by calling the police and getting that crash report done right there, you basically can reconstruct and have what is basically happened. If they don't give you a name or address, make sure you get the license number. Not the license number, the license plate number and state of issue, make of the vehicle, model, year of the vehicle, and damage to the vehicle. Now, if you've taken the pictures, you've got damage to the vehicle. That is what you're going to be sending to the insurance company. You should give them your insurance company name, and they should give you their insurance company name, because you're going to be able to process this a lot more smoothly. Now, and I'll go by personal experience, insurance takes time. So don't think if someone hits you that you're going to get your car repaired in the next 2 or 3 days. It could take 2 weeks to 3 weeks. I still can remember the time that we were hit last. I thought the car was going to be in the shop for maybe 3 or 4 days, and it ended up being 10. So just remember, it can be a lengthy process. Sometimes, and we'll talk about different types of insurance, but a lot of times you can get a loaner vehicle. So you won't be without transportation. Now, the problem when we're talking about the driver's ed vehicle, I need an instructor's brake, and I need a rearview mirror. If I don't have that, then I can't use the car. So that made things a little bit more difficult for me. Note the details to the crash. It's very important that on this form you're going to put down the date, like today, April 2nd, around 4:23. I was heading north. The road conditions, the roads were wet, slick. It was actively raining. I was going slightly below the speed limit because of the rain. And the other thing, too, when they ask about speed, if you're at fault, you will always underestimate what you're actually going. Most people always try to make themselves look better when it comes to taking fault. Okay, I really wasn't going that fast. My position was fine. I was checking my mirrors, looking around. I have no idea why I didn't pick them out of the traffic situation. Everybody's going to change their story. It's not until the insurance companies take a look at skid marks and placement of the vehicle, how much damage was done, until they can really figure out what actually did happen. So try to be as truthful as you can. Now, if the crash involved a parked vehicle or property, so let's just say you ran over somebody's mailbox. You went too fast around a corner. You hit the mailbox. You should leave a note at that house, in the door. You knock on the door. There's nobody there. Leave a note, but call the police. Because a lot of times if you don't leave a note, let's just say that you're in a parking lot and you drive away, someone may, take out their phone, take a picture of you driving away, so they've got your license plate number. This is what happened. So make sure that you leave a note. I think I included this. Here's someone that put out a note. Hi, my name is Jack. I accidentally hit your car and someone saw me, so I'm pretending to write down the details. Sorry. That is not a good note. Okay? What you need to do, and I want you to write this down for your notes, is you're writing down your name, your address, and your phone number. Okay? You don't want to be like Jack. Okay? So Jack was trying to get away with it. I'm going to go back to the last slide just for one moment. Seeing a doctor, why this is important, and for any of you that have played sports before, you basically know that the first day of practice, you don't feel too good the next morning. You're a little tight, a little bit sore. Same thing in a crash. Even if you're in your seatbelt, whiplash can take place. You could have a concussion. Remember, you don't have to hit your head on something to have a concussion. As long as your head is stopped and your brain is moving forward and is hitting the inside of your skull, a concussion still could take place. So make sure that you understand that a doctor needs to check you out so they can have a medical report on hand in case you have to come back to court and sue the person in saying that I had to go to rehab because my back was so bad that I had to see a chiropractor for 2 months, and you're going to pay for this. So as long as it's in the doctor's notes that they gave you like muscle relaxant and they gave you medication for pain, it's going to help your case if you ever take it to court. Okay, this is important, and I've got it in bold type and underline here. New Hampshire law requires that if anyone is killed or injured, or the total combined property damage is more than $1,000, you must file an official, they call it an accident report, to the DMV in Concord within 15 days. So there's 3 parts to that I want you to write down and understand. One is that the damage, and most people can't estimate what the damage truly is. So I would always make out this form. Always. Okay? So it goes to Concord. It doesn't go to the DMV or the substation in Dover or Epping. It goes to Concord, and you have to do it within 15 days. If you do not do this, and the other person does, and they've got your name and your address, they will show up at your house, knock on your door, okay, and tell you that if you do not file this, you are going to get a ticket. This is something that you have to do. It's not something you should, but the law requires. Now, the nice thing is that if a police officer investigates, you're not required to file. Let me tell you, not every police department will take the time to file it for you. Portsmouth is case in point. We were hit in Portsmouth back about 4 or 5 years ago. The police weren't really of much help. They did help us get the information back and forth from the other person, but they really didn't give us a carbon copy of what he wrote. He just made sure that we exchanged information, and he expected us to follow up and do the rest. So I would still file it even if the officer does it, because I want my account, the way that I saw things happen, rather than what he wrote down or what the other person wrote down. Case of a fire, try to put it out. Don't smoke around a crash. There could be leaking fuels. Now, this next one, fallen electrical wires at the scene. Now, think about it. Who would normally hit a telephone pole and snap it in two? Now, 2 people come to mind. One would be the texting driver. He's not paying attention, hits the soft shoulder. We talked about running off the pavement last week. He gets pulled off to the side, goes into the telephone pole, snaps it in 2, comes down on top of him. The other person that comes to mind is someone under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Now, I want you to think about this. If you hit a telephone pole and it snaps and it comes down and you see electrical wires and they're sparking like crazy in front of you, take a deep breath. You're still alive. Why would you leave your car? You shouldn't. Now, you may say, well, I'm afraid the sparks may catch fire. Now, that's a possibility. But it's better for you to have someone call for the power company to come out and shut off the power supply to that particular area. Now, if you do think it's a life or death situation, what you want to do is to open up your door, stand on the door jamb with both feet, and then jump out. Now, I assume that most of you are sitting down right now, so I'm going to go back to the picture. Okay, so you're sitting in your car, you're driving, you hit the telephone pole, it snaps in 2. Your first reaction is to open up the door and take your left foot and to step out. Now your left foot is out on the ground. Your right foot is still inside the vehicle. You've just grounded yourself and you've become electrocuted. So a person that is under the influence of alcohol or drugs probably isn't thinking clearly. So their first reaction, I better get out of the car. Some of them will try to run away. But at that point, they're going to get electrocuted. The other thing about injured people is that stay within your training. Now, I know most of you at school have taken first aid or CPR. So stay within your skill level and you're going to be okay. There's something called the Good Samaritan Law, which means that if you help people out and you stay within your skill level, it's almost impossible to sue you. I'm sure people will try, but what would happen in this world if we didn't help other people? People would just drive by, and then more people would die. So we want people to step up to help within their skill level, and I think we're going to be better off for that. Now, I know a lot of people say, well, I don't like blood. I don't hear people screaming. I get that. I understand that. Maybe someone else with you knows what to do. But you certainly don't want to leave someone there bleeding to death. And it's not minutes that go by that we're trying to save. It's seconds. Okay, I want you to write that down in your notes. The earlier you could call for help or to flag people down to help you with the situation, you could save a life. The worst thing for you to do is just to sit in the car and wait and wait and wait and do nothing when you know there's somebody in the other vehicle that needs help. Now, on the flip side, don't try to do things that you're not familiar with. And it's horrific, some of the scenes that you'll see when people are been hit. I've had the misfortune to see a couple crashes, and knowing that a few times I've seen people that have actually passed. Just something that you just don't unsee. You see that for the rest of your life. But I also have been to crashes where I've had to help passengers and apply direct pressure to help them from bleeding until the EMTs came. And I know that it did help. They said it helped. So be involved. Just be smart about it and stay within your skill. What did I do that for? If you're not the first person at the scene of a crash and your help is not needed, you should drive on. Okay? There's no need to make this a spectacle. And I know in this age with Twitter and everything else, people want to be the first to put something online and things like that, but you really don't want to do that. So if you're not needed, just keep driving on. The last bullet here is if you hit a dog, you must report the incident to the dog's owner or the police. I would probably say more. I told you we've been hit twice by people. It wasn't the driver's fault. I would say the worst thing that's happened in the driver's ed vehicle is that I had a driver from St. Thomas that hit a dog. It was not his fault. The dog ran in front of us. It was chasing something, and he tried to avoid it. I tried to reach over, grab the steering wheel. I tried to use my instructor brake. It happened so quick that neither of us was able to do anything to avoid hitting the dog, and we hit the dog, and we killed the dog. And we did have to go door to door. I think we went to 2 or 3 houses. We did find the owner. He said it was the second dog that he lost on Route 4. Now, I know he just lost a dog and we were the cause of that, but I felt like asking him, why wasn't the dog on a run? If this is your second dog that you've lost, why is it loose? Now, the driver was so shooken up by what happened, he wasn't able to drive back to school. I actually did the driving back to school. And it did take a while for him to complete the rest of his driving because he didn't feel comfortable with it. When something like this happens, it does shake you up. It really does. And everybody kind of makes fun of me when I say this, so I'm going to say it again because I say it to all my classes. Anything that's a domesticated animal, a dog or a cat, we try to avoid at all cost. But at no point are we going to put human life above an animal. So it makes no sense to miss a cat and to go head on into an oncoming car full of a family of 5. Okay, we don't want that to happen. Now, in the best world, we don't hit the cat, we don't hit the car. But if it comes down to where it's either or, and this is happening so quickly that you've got to make that decision, you've got to err on human life. So yes, you have to report it. And we did have the police come out and we filled out a report. And because it really wasn't our fault, we did not have to pay him for getting another dog. He didn't have it on a run, so he was partly to blame. But let's talk about wildlife. My philosophy with wildlife is anything that's bigger than a microwave, try to avoid. Anything smaller than a microwave, you try to miss it, but you know what? Sorry, squirrel. It's not your day. We slow down, we move to the right, move slightly to the left. We talked about lane position, but we are not going to do anything that's going to put our life or other people's lives on the line. So watch out for deer, watch out for moose, turkey, and bear. Those are the 4 that I want you to write down that you're going to see in New Hampshire that's going to challenge you as a driver. So turkey, deer, bear, moose. And a lot of times you're going to get warning signs on the side of the road indicating that that's an area where they've had situations. Let's talk about insurance now. So we've had a crash. We've talked about getting hit on all 4 sides of the vehicle. We've talked about animals. Let's talk about insurance now. So what I want you to write down in your notes, New Hampshire has no mandatory insurance law, so you can drive at your own risk. But what I want you to add to that, that's for people older than 18. Okay, think about it. You are not responsible. You are not responsible under the age of 18. Your parents are responsible for you. Once you get older than 18, if you purchase a car and it's paid for, then you don't have to have insurance on it. The other thing I want you to write down is that anytime you take out a loan, and we talked about this when we talked about title, a title of a vehicle shows ownership. Well, who owns the car? If you're still paying off a loan, the bank still owns part of it. So if you have a loan on your car, you have to, by law, have some insurance on it so the bank can get their money back. New Hampshire, the cost is the costliest state for insurance. It says here the breakdown of the 10 costliest states based on their average premium. New Hampshire, number 1, 111% of what the average. So we're over the average. That's huge. Okay. Good luck when you go looking for insurance. You're going to pay for it. These are situations you don't have to write it down. I went. When does the state require people to have insurance? Is if they had a DWI, they didn't stop and report a crash, homicide, second-time reckless driving, review of your driving record. So there are situations, even if you own the car outright, the state still requires you to have insurance. But you don't have to write that down. I'm not going to test you on that. Let's take a look at this movie. This is going to explain insurance.
Hello, my name is Lisa Liability. I'll be speaking on the basics of auto insurance. For most people, buying an automobile is their first major purchase. Actually, a new car is second only to a home as the most expensive purchase many consumers make. With vehicle prices averaging over $28,000, it's easy to see why one would want to protect that investment. Before we talk about coverage for the automobile itself, I'd like to start with what many people believe is the most important coverage of all, liability coverage. Liability coverage pays for the injuries or damage you or someone driving your car cause to other people or their property. The 2 liability coverages are called bodily injury liability and property damage liability. Every state has different laws dictating the minimum.
Okay, I'm going to get out of this because for some reason this came up. I don't know why it came up. I'm going to try to take the screenshot. Close. Oh, there we go. All right, let's go back to the...
Hello, my name is Lisa Liability. I'll be speaking on the basics of auto insurance. For most people, buying an automobile is their first major purchase. Actually, a new car is second only to a home as the most expensive purchase many consumers make. With vehicle prices averaging over $28,000, it's easy to see why one would want to protect that investment. Before we talk about coverage for the automobile itself, I'd like to start with what many people believe is the most important coverage of all, liability coverage. Liability coverage pays for the injuries or damage you or someone driving your car caused to other people or their property. The two liability coverages are called bodily injury liability and property damage liability. Every state has different laws dictating the minimum coverage you must carry for this. Some states require you to prove you have insurance before registering a motor vehicle, and other states use the honor system, where you only have to provide proof if you have an accident or violation. A typical state-required minimum coverage is 25, 50, 10, and I'll provide an example shortly to explain what that means. There are 4 states that do not require drivers to carry any liability coverage. Just because it's not required by law doesn't mean you don't need it. Let's say you have an accident. You're distracted momentarily and rear-end the BMW in front of you. There are 3 people in it, all of whom suffer some injury. If you're carrying liability coverage of 25, 50, 10, that means your insurance company will cover the cost of any one person's injuries, rehabilitation expenses, pain and suffering, and time lost from work up to $25,000. But they will not pay more than $50,000 for the accident, regardless of the number of people injured. This is the bodily injury portion. And your insurance company will pay up to $10,000 for the property damaged. So 3 people are injured. Let's say their injuries total $75,000. And the BMW has rear-end damage of $13,000. Your policy will pay for $50,000 for all injuries and $10,000 for the property damage. Where does the remaining $25,000 for bodily injury and $3,000 for property damage come from? Once your policy pays the maximum limits, you could be held personally responsible for the remaining amount. It's generally recommended that you carry more than the state minimum coverage to protect yourself from this financial risk. The next coverage under an automobile policy is medical payments coverage. This provision protects you and your passengers if you're hurt in a car accident, regardless of who's at fault. The coverage also extends to you and your family members if you're a passenger in someone else's car or if you're a pedestrian injured by an automobile. Medical payments coverage pays the medical bills resulting from an accident up to a per-person maximum, commonly $5,000. There are no deductibles and no waiting period under this coverage, and prescription drugs related to the injuries are covered. Consider that accident with the BMW again. Let's say that you and your passenger are both injured and taken by ambulance to the hospital. Medical payments coverage of $5,000 will cover the cost of the ambulance ride, the emergency room visit, and subsequent doctor's visits up to $5,000 per person. If your medical bills total $7,000 and your passengers total $3,000, the policy will pay $8,000 under this coverage. Some states have a medical payments coverage known as personal injury protection, or PIP. This coverage may have a deductible, and it may allow you to collect for lost wages and rehabilitation expenses, 2 things that regular medical payments coverage does not cover. A third coverage provided by an automobile insurance policy is uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage. This coverage is quoted similarly to bodily injury liability. Even though mandatory insurance laws exist in 48 states, nearly 15% of all accidents are caused by uninsured drivers. Uninsured motorist coverage provides protection for you and your passengers when you're injured in an accident with an uninsured motorist. It will cover your medical bills, rehabilitation expenses, lost wages, pain and suffering, things you could have claimed against the at-fault party's insurance if they had it. Underinsured motorist coverage will cover those same losses if the at-fault party's coverage is insufficient for your loss. Keep in mind, in most states, the uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage applies to injury only and not for damage to your vehicle. Protection for your automobile is provided under the collision and comprehensive portions of a policy. Collision coverage applies when you have an accident involving another vehicle or an object, such as a telephone pole, a guardrail, a building, or when you overturn your vehicle. Comprehensive coverage applies in losses involving fire, theft, vandalism, broken glass, hitting an animal, flood or hail damage, or other losses not caused by collision. These coverages have a deductible, the amount you must pay before the insurance company pays for damages. Common collision deductibles are $500 or $1,000, and common comprehensive deductibles are $100 or $250. If your automobile is financed, then you're required by the bank or financer to carry comprehensive and collision coverages until that loan is paid off. It's important to note, an insurance company will never pay more to fix your vehicle than the vehicle is worth. Two other coverages available through many insurance companies are towing and emergency road service and rental car reimbursement. While these coverages are optional, I always recommend them as part of my full coverage package. Automobile insurance rates are based on many factors, including where you live, your age, what you drive, how much you drive, and the coverage you carry. One way to keep your insurance costs down is to take high comprehensive and collision deductibles. As a vehicle gets older and is not financed, many people choose to drop these two coverages completely as a way to save money. Additionally, many people choose to pay for small claims out of their own pockets as a way to keep their rates down. But remember, the coverage you carry is just one of the factors contributing to the cost of insurance. There are things you can do to make sure you get the best price possible. The first is to keep your driving record clean. Your driving record is used as a predictor of future experience. Accidents and violations stay on your record for 3 years, and major violations and suspensions stay on for 5 years. Many companies now use a scoring model that combines your driving record with a variety of other information, including certain elements of your credit history and prior insurance claims to determine your cost for insurance. This means that paying bills on time could affect your insurance rate, as could the number of claims you file on your policy. Automobile insurance can be confusing, but a little knowledge can go a long way in providing you the protection you need.
Okay, that's a lot of information that she just went over. So we're going to kind of go through this real quickly. So I want to kind of highlight. I want you to write down these 3 terms. Okay, you need to know this for the final. The first one is policy. That's a legal contract between you and the insurance company. You've got to remember that when you buy insurance, it is a legal document. A lot of times when people go to court, they're going to have to bring that document into the court, and they're going to review that. So the insurance company is agreeing to doing certain things, and you're agreeing to doing certain things, and it has to be written a certain way. And like most things that have lengthy, pages of things, most people just say, where do I need to sign? And they sign it. I am sure your parents are like that because we need insurance. So before you sign anything, make sure that you really have a basic understanding of what you're going to get from this insurance. Now, because you're getting a policy, it's going to cost money. So what we call that is a premium. And that's the amount of money that you pay each year for that policy. Now, when I say different schedules, I'm talking about you can pay monthly, you could pay every 3 months, every 6 months. It's all dependent on what you want to do. But the longer you spread it out, the more you're going to be paying. If you pay it all up front, you're going to get a cheaper rate. And the last thing I want you to write down is deductible. And we heard that term a lot in the video. And this is where a lot of people don't understand. It's the amount of money that you pay after each crash before the insurance company pays the remainder. And she gave examples, and she gave good examples, because if you buy a policy that doesn't cover for the total amount of the crash, you're going to be left on the hook to pay for it out of your own pocket, or your parents will. So this is why it's so important to make sure that your coverage meets your needs. So let me explain again. You can choose your deductible. Ask your parents. That's going to be part of your homework. You're going to talk to your parents about what you're going to have for insurance, what kind of insurance policy, what kind of coverage. The higher, this is what I want you to write down, the higher your deductible, the lower your premium will be. Here's an example. if you have $1,000 deductible, so any crash that you have, you're paying $1,000 out of your own pocket before the insurance company pays. Let's just say that $1,000 deductible, your premium's $1,000. We'll make it simple. If you went down where your deductible was $500, your premium may be $1,600-$1,700. You're paying more up front with your policy premium because you have a low deductible. So if you always go high with your deductible, your policy premium will always be low. So if you think you're a good driver, it makes sense to always go with a higher deductible. In New Hampshire, if you have to have insurance, they have these limits. I'm not going to test you on this, so I'm not going to really go over it. But I did put down at the bottom of the screen here is that a common coverage of a policy may look like $100,000 for injury or death to one person, $300,000 for death to more than one person, and then $50,000 for property damage. All those numbers can change. Basically, think of insurance like a cafeteria where you may want more dessert than you want of the main meal. You have a choice to, choose what you want, cafeteria style. So your insurance policy, same thing. You're going to want that number to be higher or lower depending on what you're driving for a vehicle or what your risk is for driving. If you're a bad driver, I want really high coverage. If I'm a good driver, I'd probably want lower. This is something that I'm going to test you on. Liability is the most important type of insurance. This takes care of the other person. That's all I want you to write down. Liability is the most important insurance. It takes care of the other person. Their medical bills, their rehab, the funeral, for them, the passengers, pain and suffering, legal costs, replacement of their vehicle. You may say, I don't care what happens to me, but I want to make sure that they're being taken care of. That's wise. That's important. This is why you're going to be paying the bulk of your premium for liability insurance. Now, the next two, what I want you to write down is collision and comprehensive. This is basically something that happens to you in your vehicle. You go too fast around a corner, you lose control of the car, you hit a tree. You are going too fast. It's your fault. But guess what? If you got insurance, the insurance company will repair your vehicle even though you caused the damage. Now, comprehensive has to do with more natural causes like hail, what we talked about. If your car gets caught in a flood, if it catches fire, if it's stolen, or if it's keyed on the side, comprehensive insurance will probably kick in to pay for damages. So if you have that type of insurance, like liability is a type of insurance, then you're going to be covered. Personal injury takes care of lost wages, medical bills for you and your passengers. So this is on your side. Now, I don't normally think this is a good thing to have. Well, maybe because of passengers, you should have a little bit of it. But for you, you've got medical insurance. Your parents have medical insurance. Remember, as it said in the video, you're not going to have two insurance companies paying for the same claim. So one's going to pay for it. Roadside and rental, I usually don't get on my policy. So that is something that I usually keep off. And this is the other thing I want you to write down is that the more you know about insurance when you go looking for it, the more you're going to be able to save. Like I just said right here, I don't have roadside because I have AAA. I don't do rental reimbursement because I have a personal truck that I can use, and I even have another driver's ed vehicle I could use. So it doesn't make any sense for me to have this on my policy. And that could be $50 to $100. So if you want to save $100 to $200, start taking things off your insurance policy, things that you don't need or that you're going to use. Now, this is important in a lot of states, so I want you to write this one down, uninsured motorist. This is because there are a lot of people that own their vehicle outright and they just don't carry insurance. So if they hit you, you have to sue them. Well, guess what? They don't have any money. So how are you going to get your car repaired? How are you going to get your medical bills? Like we saw from the Jackie story. You need this type of insurance. And depending on what you do for a living and driving, you may want a lot of it. Meaning that you want to make sure that no matter what happens, like her bills were well over multiple millions of dollars. So you want to make sure that you have a liability limit that will cover this uninsured motorist. Here's an example of males versus females. So in your notes, I want you to write down that insurance rates are based state by state. What do I mean? That when you move to another state, your rates will change. Well, wait a minute. I'm the same person. I'm driving the same car. Well, insurance rates are based upon people getting tickets and people having crashes. So every state compiles those numbers. So when you go to another state, those rates are going to change because you become in a different risk pool. So you can see it kind of varies. In some states, the male is paying slightly less, but for the most part, females are paying less than males because more males get tickets or are involved in crashes. It's just a numbers game. This is what I want you to write down so you can save some money. Okay, compare your rates every year or two. So one of the things I want you to do, well, we'll just take a moment right here so you know what your homework is. So write down your homework has to do around insurance. So this is what I want you to do. Is I want you to ask your parents, when was the last time that they changed policies? I would bet that most of them, it's greater than 2 or 3 years. They've stayed with State Farm for the last 5, 6 years. I will tell you, if you look every 2 or 3 years to find another insurance company, you're shopping the same coverage, you're going to find someone that's going to give it to you cheaper. You know why? They want your business. So you stay with that company for 2 or 3 years and then you shop it again. It's going to go down. People get too comfortable just paying their bill every month and they don't realize that it goes up little by little by little every year. I know that when my oldest got her license, we switched and we saved over $600. Same coverage, same cars, just a new company. Don't carry collision or comprehensive on older cars. Every single of my children, I've got 3, have old driver's ed vehicles. All of them had close to 200,000 miles. They weren't really worth a whole lot because of the high mileage. They had liability, but we took the collision comprehensive off. I had one daughter that got hit twice. She had dents and scratches in the car. But we didn't care, okay? It was still drivable. It didn't look too good. Always, when we talked about this, increase your deductible to reduce premiums. Take a defensive driving course. Ask for a discount from your carrier if you're an honor student. So if you're like on a scale of 4.0, if you get a 3.0 or above, if you're in the top certain percentile of your graduating class, if you have like a B average, all that is will qualify you for a discount. Oh, I forgot to finish up on the insurance. I got on a tangent here. So I want you to ask your parents how long it's been since that they've changed policies. Then I want you to ask them, who is your carrier? Why do you need to know that? Because if you get hit or someone hits you, or you hit them, I should say, they're going to ask you, well, who's your carrier? Well, I don't know. Let me call my parents. You should have that with you. Now, most people carry an insurance card in their glove compartment, so you may have that. But you should know, I have Progressive, I have Geico, I have State Farm. Also, you should know whether you have an agent, because if you have to file out a report, you may have to contact them. Now, if you bought your insurance online, and a lot of people are doing that now, you're not going to have an agent. You're going to have everything done online. But what you do need to know is, what is the phone number I have to call to make a claim? So ask your parents, how long has it been since we switched policies? Who's our company? If we have an agent, what's the name, so I can talk to, Mark Smith? And then what's the number that if I have to make a claim? At some point, you're not going to be on your parents' policy. At some point, you're going to have to be responsible for all this stuff. You might as well start now. In the next 4 or 5 years, you're going to be out of high school and college. You're going to probably not even be around here. You're going to need to use this. Pay for your bills on time, up front. Go on your parents' policy, will always be cheaper. And if you're really trying to save money, you may, when you start thinking about what type of car to get, you're going to be thinking about, you know, what are the ones that are least popular with thieves? What are the ones that have the best anti-lock systems and things like that? And you can find ways to. And by the way, there's a myth going around that if you drive a red car, you pay more for insurance. That's wrong. The color of your car has nothing to do with you getting higher insurance rates. And the reason why people say that is that more people that have nice, fast cars get the color red, white, black. It'd be like saying people with brown cars, which is probably the least favorite color, they get a discount because they're driving a brown car. That's not, it has nothing to do with it. So there are ways to save money. And the app that I was telling you about, let's see if I can get that up here.
When small accidents happen, don't let it take up more time than it has to. Let Allstate's Quick Photo Claim help get you back to your routine without the extra hassle. Once you've downloaded the Allstate mobile app, you can use Quick Photo Claim to submit your damages easily on your smartphone. The Quick Photo Claim feature within the Allstate mobile app is designed to use photos of your vehicle to provide a repair quote for minor damage without having to meet an adjuster or visit a body shop. To begin, make sure you're in a safe, well-lit area and that you have a good cellular connection. Open your Allstate app and select Quick Photo Claim from the home screen. After entering your claim number, the app will prompt you to take at least 3 photos of the damaged area. To avoid glare, turn your mobile camera's flash off. Tap the screen to focus the camera if the shot seems blurry. Next, Quick Photo Claim provides a frame for you to take photos of all 4 corners of your vehicle. The last step is to capture a photo of your odometer and VIN. The app will show you multiple locations where you can find your VIN on your vehicle. After the photos are submitted, an adjuster will review the information. Claim payments can be set up through the Allstate mobile app if you are registered and logged into My Account. Small accidents don't have to be a hassle. Download the Allstate mobile app and let Quick Photo Claim handle your fender bender in no time. Available for download in the App Store or Google Play.
Okay, that's basically a quick overview of insurance, and we really went through it very, very quickly. So hopefully this gives you enough information. Why is that still on the screen? That is different. Let me get that out. Gone. So that's just a quick overview of insurance. So hopefully this was helpful because in the state of New Hampshire, you have to follow those guidelines of filing within so many days to the DMV in Concord. Also, what to do with your insurance company. Remember, look to see if your insurance company, part of your homework, see if your insurance company has an app. So make sure that you do the filing through the app. So the agent may not even come into play. But this will give you enough information to save money and to make sure that you have a decent policy. So what I want you to do, because that's going to be it for today, there really isn't any reading to do because we're going to do road rage because I knew I was going to run out of time today. I knew that 10 minutes or so isn't going to be enough to get into road rage. So we're going to cover road rage and highway driving on Monday. Then we'll get into sharing the road with large trucks. And then Wednesday's class will be distracted driving. And we really haven't talked too much about parking. Kind of skipped over that because I just got my drone and I've been playing with it. So hopefully this weekend I'll do some shots on parking. If I can get out and drive around and get that loaded in. So hopefully they will reduce some of the restrictions and we can start driving at some point because next week we're done with the class, but we've got a ton of driving. We are so far behind. So I don't know what to tell you of what we're going to be able to do, but we'll try to do the best we possibly can. So at the end of today, text me that you're out of the session and you want I told you I was going to give you a week review because I didn't do the worksheets this week. We just did the cumulative test at the end of each chapter. So I've got, I think, about a 30, 35 kind of quiz covering everything that we went over this week. But you've got to text me as soon as I turn off the camera in the next 5 minutes. Text me that you want the quiz, and that will be part of your homework. So we've got the quiz, and we have the insurance. How long it's been since your parents have switched, the insurance company name, agent, and a claim number. That is all you have to do. Have a good weekend. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully this is getting a little bit easier, a little bit better. I'm going to see how it looks without me on the screen in the bottom corner and see if that is any better. But have a great weekend. See you on Monday.